take a little longer here because we have Josh here, and Josh and I always like to chat.
Yeah.
And I like to do this a little bit as a end of year video, talking about the end of year. And you had a really nice year, I think. And you were just announced the most appreciated or underrated paddler here. Yeah, what did you think about that?
Yeah, no, it's cool to get that acknowledgement. I really don't try to be. I really don't paddle to be acknowledged as the best of the best or get rated this or that. I really just love paddling and specifically downwinding. So to me, my year was really focused on the channel and the Molokai to Oahu. Crossing this year was great. The conditions were the best I've seen in 6 years. So
yeah, that was a fun race.
I had a great time just prepping for that whole race, and just to get those conditions on race day was the cherry on top.
And then you did it well at the Gorge, where I was for the first time this year. That was like one of my highlights this year.
Yeah, for sure.
You did well there.
To me, the Gorge is the most enjoyable event overall. I made it a 2-week trip this year to go early and spend more time on the river in preparation of that event. It's really interesting to me where all the time spent in the ocean downwinding doesn't actually prepare me that much for the river, because the options and the spacing of the bumps and the speed is so different that I almost need to go to Hood River early to kind of
get acquainted to it
and get the eyes and the body adjusted to the different conditions. And so I really went earlier this year than ever, and it paid off. I got really good result there in the downwind event, which I always, was chasing but never got up until this year. And then also did pretty well in the tech race, and just it's a good event.
The tech race was fun to watch too, and definitely looking back at the year, and we're going to have a video later on with some vlog highlights. But yeah, I want to say the Gorge was definitely one of my highlights. But overall, so you had a good year. I was stoked. I had some highlights. I don't get to travel as much as other people, so I'm kind of like focused on just a few things. And otherwise, I watch remotely. But how was the SUP year overall? I mean, looking back, and right now we're having a little the subjects from last week's video and Chris's essay. So how was the year overall? You thinking compared to years before for the industry, for the race scene? What kind of vibe are you taking out?
I don't know. I honestly kind of did a little bit less traveling and competing this year, so I felt a little bit less involved in the scene than I have in the last 6 or 7 years. So I stayed, primarily in North America for all my events. I had a good time early in the year at Santa Cruz. That's a really good event, Santa Cruz Paddle Fest.
I'd love to go there once.
You surf at Steamer Lane, you paddle surf at Steamer's Lane, which is such a treat.
Yeah, that's awesome.
To get that wave with 3 other guys out on a paddleboard is quite the opportunity, rare opportunity. So that's awesome. That was a smaller event. I really enjoyed that one because it's a lot more just slower pace, less stress. Everybody's kind of excited to see each other. It's the first event of the year, and then I went to Carolina Cup because that is, to me, I think one of the biggest participation races as far as elite racing, elite racers go.
You've been going there for many years.
6 years.
Do you see the participation rate dropping off, declining, or is it the same?
I definitely think it's declined a little bit from the high point of maybe 2014, 15. But it was huge as far as the overall scene there. I think the elite racing field has got a little bit smaller, but no less competitive. To me, that was the most competitive field I raced against this year.
Let's do one last question here. how healthy is the sport?
Um,
Are we in a healthy state? Are you excited about 2020? Where
yeah,
are we heading in 2020?
Yeah,
let's look at this.
Okay, so like
what's going on next year?
Personally, I'm just as excited to go out and paddle, travel, compete, see everybody train for these big races like I have ever been.
Yeah.
I see the paddle ticks of the sport really making that part of it really ugly, and I think it's pretty toxic. Just like most times politics are, I think the atmosphere of politics these days are always
a whole
toxic
story on its own.
So and the paddle politics are the same way. Honestly, I'm way more of a paddler than a governing body of
Right.
the sport. So I just put my head down and paddle out. I live out here in Maui.
Just show up, have fun, and go do your thing, and then
and really not involve myself in the stressful kind of political back and forth that is sometimes ruining the sport in some ways, or just it's holding the sport back from achieving a better situation than where it's at. I know we all.
Let me ask you here, the devil advocate a little bit. Since you're a participating body in this sport, shouldn't be in your interest to get involved in the sport to help it shape it for a better future, while you're already frustrated with the politics? Kind of like, hey, you got to go vote if you want to have a change.
Well, and that's kind of been forced upon me. It's really not my natural instinct to want to put my nose in the middle of this business, especially when the back and forth is just not kind of professional at all. It's people shouting it back and forth at each other. I don't really want to get myself into the middle of it.
So it's the tone, kind of like that. Do you see a bad tone?
But to me,
I don't see that actually. Very like.
Well, to me, it's just it's.
I haven't seen. I mean, I know people are talking on social media, but I haven't really seen people getting angry with each other.
I mean, to me, you've got a lot of passionate people with their own opinions, and so that's all it is. It's a lot of opinions being thrown out there, and to kind of jump in the middle of that, I just don't see it being worth my time.
Okay. Respect that.
I'm not. I'm focusing on other things, and like everyone else, I have real, just normal world problems to kind of attend to, and so
it's kind of a luxury problem.
I really find that the more I concern myself with that part of the sport, the less I actually want to enjoy paddling. And so if I'm not going to get into something that's ruining what I love to do.
Yes.
I can simply
That's
just
cool.
keep go paddling, and if the race world gets worse, then I won't be going to those races or to those organizations' events. You haven't seen me at any of these world tour or world champion crowning events because I truly didn't believe in the value of them. And so I stayed out here and downwinded all year long, and I'm going downwinding probably tomorrow, and I'm just as stoked on paddling as I was back in 2009 when I first got into it. So,
and no shit, man, downwinding is awesome. I mean, I'm just looking out there now, and there's so many bumps, and I'm pretty sure Malikoron is nuking right now. No doubt. Well, I respect that. Some people get more involved than others, but the bottom line is you enjoy the sport, and that's essentially what you're in for. But for all of those out there that try to somehow make a living out of it and try to earn a buck, for them a healthy sport and a well-organized sport would sure be helpful to monetize on what their passion is and maybe what they're depending on in order to make another step forward and have that progression. But if you're not depending on it, then show up and paddle. It doesn't matter. But I think there's a lot of people out there that for them it really matters in which direction this is going and whether it becomes something or not, in order for their, it's kind of deciding their future.
Yeah, no, I definitely I see that point that you're making. It really is, you know, in my heart that I would love to see that the sport provide that platform for the athletes to really perform and excel and to make a living off of this passion that we all have.
Yeah.
I just don't want that drive for monetizing this sport to get to that level where you can have a huge group of paddlers, over 100 guys, over 75 of the top females, making a full career off of this sport. I would love to see it get to that, but we're not seeing that in a much larger sport known as surfing. I mean, professional
I don't
surfers.
think we're not going to see that in the near future either. We see that.
So to me,
maybe the top 10 of each, top 10 males and top 10 females maybe get a little money, and then maybe 2 or 3 out of each maybe can get the budget for their entire year out of it, maybe.
Well, and so to me, this whole conversation has been talking about the elite professional side of the sport,
right?
Which is this really small part of the sport, and so.
But that's the part that keeps us excited.
I think the focus should be more on the integrating all paddlers from all levels into just a more enjoyable experience at each event. The Gorge does not claim to hand out a world title by any means. I think it might have been affiliated by APP.
World Paddle Association.
But
WPA.
But to me, you know, really the main thing that gets me paddling is just or competing, I guess, and going to these events is really the competition that I get to like test myself against. I love competing against the world's best guys.
Yeah, so you know where you're at.
There's way more than just that at the events, and I think for most people going to these events, that's what it is. It's a mini vacation where you're going to do something you like to do with like-minded people.
And I love these 2-day events where you like the PPG used to be, or the Gorge, where you're there for a weekend. There is a little opening something, then you have a long distance first, and then that's that day, and then the next day everybody gets back together. You have dinner with people, you meet. It's a little bit of an industry meeting. You meet people that are part of the brands, the salespeople, the athletes, other media people, and yeah, for sure. That's why I go at least once a year. I'll go either to now the Gorge or the PPG, because I know that's kind of like where everybody meets, and that's very, very important for our culture and our sport, that we maintain these relationships with one another, and events like this are the best. M2 always a little difficult because it's a channel crossing, and then everybody kind of parts and goes their own way, but I like those or like if you take a week-long event like the ISA thing, where everybody kind of almost hangs out and gets to see each other and have those vital discussions. I think it's important that we have those discussions. Some people are involved more than others, and but I think we all need to agree that 2020, looking forward there real quick, 2020 needs to be some sort of a year of a consolidation. We can't repeat what was going on this year. We can't. Although I'm not in control of it, but I'm saying it right here. We're
here because of a result of just growing pains of the sport going kind of faster than what it could manage.
Yeah.
It's too much of a good thing that people want to step up and claim kind of a leading, like a world title in the sport.
Yeah.
I wish everybody could consolidate their resources together and put it under kind of one comprehensive organizational banner acronym.
Well, who knows? Maybe it'll happen.
I feel like there's a lot of egos that are going to get in the way of that happening, and that's really become a big issue in the organizational side of the sport. Is the egos involved won't get out of the way to let success happen if it's not their own plan of action that they're branding for themselves.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't agree more with you. We're like, now we've been talking for quite a long time. I'm not sure if anybody's still watching, But all you egos out there, if you're still watching, you heard the message, and if everybody else is still watching, please give us a comment, like this thing, share it. It doesn't cost money to share and like, but it kind of helps and gives a little bit of a value to this whole thing, right?
Like it, please.